I've implemented the practices and principles from productivity books like Getting Things Done, Make Time, and High Performance Habits into an automated life management system. Through periodic notes like my daily note and weekly review, pursuing my goals and staying productive has never been easier. I get to effectively plan, journal, and reflect on my days, track my achievements and progress on projects after every week, stay focused on the areas that I value the most each month, and assess my higher order vision and purpose during each quarter and year. I'll share how I achieve all of this using Obsidian, my tool of choice for automating and implementing these workflows. And if you want, this entire system comes ready to use in my Ultimate Starter Vault. I'll be using it as a reference for this video, and you can learn more about it in the description. Anyways, let's start taking a deep dive into my daily note. I'm just going to slowly work my way up from the smallest time frame to the largest. So in my metadata, I have different headings that are part of this template, like my accomplishments for the day, my gratitude, and they're all links to these different headers, which I can then reference in my weekly note. So now if I just hover over these icons, I can see the content in each header. I just like using this so I can skim through the different crucial parts of my daily note. I use a lot of templater commands. This is just the title file. If you don't know much about templater, I'd recommend you watch my school video on how I use data view and templater, because those two plugins are very crucial for the contents of these notes. This is basically just, it takes the title of the note, which would be in year, month, date format, as you can see, and then it would subtract a day and then format it back to the appropriate format. If I create the note for today, you can see that there's a link back, link forward, and there's also a link to the weekly note. Next up, I have today's focus, which is just something I incorporated from reading Make Time. Say in the book, they recommend having a daily highlight to look forward to and work towards. Next, I then have my top 3 tasks for the day, which are all just implemented using basic markdown checkboxes. And then this part right here is an embed note to the improvements header in the previous note. So then in here, I can just write down anything that I'd want my future self to remember. Maybe tasks, maybe ideas, whatever will help me. Next up, I have a to-dos query, which lets me see all of the Kanban tasks due on this day from my different Kanban boards. So if I open up a project and then set the due date to today, it takes some time. If I go back to the note, you can see contents of the task, the status, where it is. In this case, it's still in the backlog, and you can also see which board it's from, just to easily navigate to it. So I'm going to change that real back. This is all done just using data view queries. I copied it off of some post on the Obsidian forums and modified a bit to match the structure of my vault. So it just gets from any note with a Kanban's tag that links to this specific daily note, and then it extracts all of the tasks in it as a variable called tasks, and it only shows those that aren't completed with the actual text link to this note. Because if you don't include this, then it'll just show all of the tasks in the note, which isn't really that useful. Lastly, I just sort it and then limit it to only 20, just so I don't have an endless list. Next up is my daily log. If I just head to the template real quick, I just include another file called dailies. If I just head to that, it includes different habits I like to incorporate. These aren't my real ones, these are example ones. But yeah, I'd separate it into the different parts of the day. So this is where you can just keep your recurring tasks or any reminders that you want to have. And you can also use templater to only show certain tasks based on the date. In my case, I work Monday to Friday, so I'd only want my work part of my daily log to show on the weekdays. So if the date is Sunday or Saturday, I don't show it. I do the same for my weekly note and only show it on Sundays. In here, I would just log whatever events I do. Maybe I fixed a certain ticket, and then I could just check it off once it's done. I can also add some details, like it was very easy, lol. If you want, you can also link to other notes. The next part is my journals. I do my gratitude and my morning mindset journal in the morning. It's just simple things, just to remember what I did the day before and just be more mindful of the things that happen in my life. Next, I just have some prompts from a book I read called High Performance Habits, just to set the tone of the day and to have more clarity and intention in what I do. Lastly, I have a reflection header where I have inline metadata fields which I can fill out. So I'll rate my day from 1 to 10. I'll write a sentence just to sum up the day. A very good day with lots of work. Obviously, it'd be more specific. And then for a story, it'd just be something I either find memorable or something I learned, or an event where I learned something from. If you want, you can also just embed a note in here. Some story. This is all part of my Ultimate Starter Vault and my own workflow. So then I would just paste the note here. And then if we head to the weekly note, you can see the rating, you can see the summary, and you can see the story. Now going back to what it was before, and now these headers are just the things I mentioned earlier with the metadata, just some more important parts of the day, like my accomplishments, my obstacles, my content log, thoughts and energies. For my content log, I would usually just link whatever input notes I created that day. Let's say maybe I read Building a Second Brain and I had a reading log. Let's just pretend this was the same day. I would head over here and then reference the header. I could also embed it. There we go. Of course, you might need some more context, so maybe you say read. For thoughts, like I did up here, you can just shove in a thought node, or you can just fill it out right here. It's ultimately up to you on if you want to separate things or just keep them all in the same note. Next, I also like to track different things to measure my progress and efficiency. In this case, it's just my energy throughout the day, which I rate from 1 to 10. So I can rate this maybe an 8, 9, 8, 7. And you can also fill out more here just to be more elaborate. And like I mentioned earlier, I have the improvements header for anything I want to tell my future self. You can also see what notes you created that day. And yeah, that's pretty much the gist of my daily note. So now let's head over to my weekly note, which I'm just going to use a preset one I made a while back, when in the top, I just link it back to my note where I show all my different reviews. And just like the daily note, I also have links to the one before and the one in the future, as well as the higher order note that it's a child of. I have my feature plan header up here just so it's more accessible, but I tend to start with my recap first because I'd want to create my feature plan based on my previous week. Now I'll just look through my different days, go through the different headers and see any highlights, see how well my obstacles were, see different parts. In this data view table, I just set the different metadata and set an alias for it, and then I only look at files that link to this note and are in the folder daily notes, and then sort it all by ascending file time. Oh, that should be file name. And then next I can see my key metrics. Since I didn't fill out the other ones, it's rather empty. If I head to this note, you can see how it looks. My physical dropped a bit over here, probably because I ate really badly or something, I don't know. My emotional was definitely the highest, which is good. To set this up, I just use the tracker plugin. Then dv field just means that it's an inline value, like how I had my energies. And then search target are the names of the values. Folder, start and end date, which I just calculate using templater once again. And this is the part where I specify what kind of visualizer I want. In this case, just a line graph, and set the title, max value, since I only go from 1 to 10. And then you can also just have a prompt to maybe improve on your worst performing energy. And yeah, like I said before, it was because of my diet. Let me just head back to the one we were on previously. And yeah, next up, I look at the projects that was due this week. Let's just use this project as an example. In my project note, I would have a time frame section where I'd link it to whatever notes are relevant. So if I link it to this note and head back here, it's going to show the file link, deadline, and the area it's related to, which is my YouTube channel. And then as for tasks go, if I head to this, create a new task, and then set it to some day within the week, should be good. And let's just do another one just to show how it works. You will once again see it in the task query. For my projects, I just do the same thing. Each of my project notes has a project tag, and once I link it to my weekly note, it'll show up here. Ask for task. I use the same system as my daily note query, but this time I include all the days in the week instead of just the one day. And lastly is my reflection section of the weekly review, where I just once again type a sentence for the day, be mindful of my achievements, think of the wins I had, and then once again I use some more prompts from High Performance Habits so I can learn from the week. Next up is my life review, which is also from High Performance Habit. I just rate each area from 1 to 5. I can also add more details if I want, and then I add up the total just to have an overall rating for the week that encompasses all different parts of my life. Once again, prompts for improvement and some more general stuff related to productivity. So once that's over, once I have some juice in my weekly review, I can head over to my future plan. First off is my action items query, where I just look at all the tasks in this note. Let's say I want to work on maybe eating less this week. So then if I head back up here, you'll see this task up here. So I won't have to go through the note again to see what my actionable tasks were. Next up, I just have a query to show all the projects for the future. Week 35, same query as the one down here. And yeah, that's about it. Next up, let's just head over to my monthly note. So to create this monthly note, I just have a Quickadd plugin, create monthly note, and I'll just type in the name of the note, respecting its format. Because if you don't respect the format, if you name it something else, all of these templater date things won't be properly set. I'm trying to open both side by side. So it's pretty much the same thing, same structure, but this time instead of projects, I just have focus areas, since I feel like having projects spanning a whole month would be tedious to keep track of all the tasks. So I just follow the OKR framework, where I have an objective with my focus and then maybe some key results. And then from there, these key results could be turned into projects. If I head over to my other note, say my objective was to lose 1 pound a week, my key results would be to do the following, which I could then turn into projects. I could turn this one to a project, but the other ones are more habit-based. So yeah, to implement this, I just have I include a file that includes these different focus areas. And I do this because I use the same structure in my quarterly and yearly notes. And I just find having this one file more convenient. So if I were to make changes, I wouldn't have to go through each template to edit. And then I have another chart for my energies, but for a larger time horizon. Once again, have the same prompt. But since a month is very, very broad, I just have more general, like simple wins, gratitude, obstacles, and very, very generic learning, because I do most of my in-depth reflection in my weekly reviews and just sum it up here. The same thing is done in my quarterly template. Pretty much the exact same thing, except I changed the links to be quarters and the higher order note to be the year. And the same can be said for the yearly note. Except this time I also have a New Year's resolution that I obviously follow. All of these files are then stored in their respective folders. Have one for daily notes, quarterly notes, monthly notes, and yearly notes at the bottom. And you can see my settings for my calendar if you want to copy it. If I head over to my Quickadd settings, you can see how I set things up here as well. I just have the template path. I create it in the respective folder, and then I open a new tab while creating it. Hopefully this gives you some inspiration for your own vault. Once again, if you just want this up and running along with some other workflows for note-taking, like the pair method or capturing inputs, I'd recommend you check out my Ultimate Starter Vault. If you want some further inspiration, I'd recommend just checking out the other videos on weekly reviews and periodic notes. Nicole does a very good job of explaining her workflows, and I really enjoyed how in-depth this one was. One thing I took away was, if I find it real quick. As you can see, this one is very complex. Instead of just having general logs, she then categorizes her logs into different data view queries. One for YouTube, which is a major part of her life, as well as her actual life. If you have any more video ideas or questions or concerns, just pretty much anything related to Obsidian or workflows. But yeah, this has been John Maverick. Stay mindful.